Welcome to the 180 podcast with Braith and Reni. We've got a huge potty on today. We're going to talk all things DCE and, of course, the Manly Seagulls, Payne Haas and his possible deflection from Australia to Samoa. We're going to talk about whether the Bulldogs can win the competition. And, of course, we've got the preview for all 8 games this weekend on Fox League. Let's bring it. All right, boys, how we going? How was the weekend?
Yeah, good, mate. I was with you. We're on a boat. Torrential rain in the harbour. Christy Webster's 40th.
Yeah, happy 40th. It wasn't a 40th, it was a 38th or something like that.
Was it?
Yeah, felt like a 40th.
Sorry,
That was
Christy.
oh no. You're in trouble. You're in trouble now.
No,
it was good being on a boat, wasn't it? In a confined space of about 10 metres by 10 by 10, and we just couldn't even go outside and have a look at the Harbour Bridge.
Mate, I was hurting from the day before anyway, so I
look
was happy to sit in the corner.
You and Sato were going mad in the corner, eh?
Yeah, while sitting with you.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
Good point that you
Have
make.
you been to Olympus?
Olympus, I haven't.
Mate,
the Greek restaurant. You went there on Friday, did you?
Friday with Elise Falloon's birthday. Happy birthday, Elise, as well. Bowie Falloon's wife.
Yeah.
Very good restaurant.
Recommend?
Recommend, highly recommend.
Okay.
I don't recommend the hangovers, though.
Oh, yeah, no, that's no good. Well, I haven't seen you all week, so I know you've had a big one.
I've been training.
How are you feeling after you broke? Because you did go 2 months strong.
Yeah, nearly 2 months. I think I'm over alcohol, eh? I'm over it. No, seriously. No laugh.
That's the funniest thing you said.
When you're
oh, this is great.
I'm just going to have to prove it to you boys.
Yeah.
But honestly,
we're not in an AA meeting.
You find it funny?
But anyway, if it makes you feel better, continue on.
Yeah, no. If you're thinking about the aftermath rather than being present in the moment, then you're showing signs of being.
You know what happens when you have a big one? You end up eating heaps of shit the next 3 or 4 days, and then you just dive into this little hole, and you don't train as much, and then the spiral continues.
It's the food, mate.
Yeah,
it's the food.
I smashed KFC on Sunday. Oh, so
no, I haven't stopped.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's get into it.
Yeah, let's do it. It was a big response, wasn't it, last week, boys? That DCE, the reel and the potty, and talking about the situation there with the player agents got a real response on our socials.
The highlight of my weekend, thanks for caring about me as always, guys. That's great.
Sorry, we left you out.
Wasn't
Were you on the boat? I didn't see you on there.
No, I was outside in the rain. Mate, honestly, the feedback that we've got, but some of your responses, and there was some great feedback, but there's a bit of troll patrol going on.
You know what, but I don't mind it because it's all about engaging the fans, and good or bad, you know, there's some funny ones in there and there's some serious ones. There's ones that I take, you know, I can actually take on board and I think they've got some good points, and then there's guys that you just want to have a crack at you, right? That's life. But I think it's important to engage with everyone who's got an opinion, right? And I actually had some fun with it, as you said.
I've got to just
read some of the comments because I had to stop sharing it on my socials because it just kept coming up.
Our good mate, Onto It Plumbing.
He's a plumber, is he?
Yeah, he's a plumber. Okay. Most overrated ex-player, actually talking about shit he wouldn't have a clue on.
Yep.
Braith responds, laughing. Yep, no idea at all. I just took a wild guess. Thank you. He wrote it in. He goes, at least you cop most overrated ex-player. Braith. Just like he returned serve and here come Braith.
Fair return serve.
And then he come back. Yes, I was really lucky to play 288 games, 10 origins, 4 test matches and win a comp. Very overrated. You should start a podcast. You'd smash it. Do the potty from one of the toilets you're fixing.
Oh, a little low blow at the end.
Sorry to all the plumbers out there, mate.
Yeah, you know, like, he had a crack. He got it. He made it personal, and so I didn't go too far with it, and because you look at their profiles, and I thought he's a plumber, so I used the toilet. But as I said, it's a bit of fun. He wanted to go. I put the gloves on and went back. You know, it's all.
You did well, mate. To be able to sit there and get back to most of those comments.
Yeah.
I don't think I could. I had the patience for.
Well, you didn't because you then turned off all your notifications.
I just don't get trolling. You know, like for me, I can't be bothered engaging with people.
Well, usually I can't either, Ren. But because we're doing the potty now, and you know, it's an opportunity to engage more with the fans. You know,
of course.
With 360 and all that, it's very different platform, right? So that's why we're doing this, right? So I actually don't mind it.
I think a lot of those comments that I did see in the socials were based around whether or not you had a conflict of interest. Obviously being a player manager, hosting Fox, a former player. How do you respond to those kind of comments?
Yeah, I get it, right? I get why people would think it, feel it, and have an opinion on that, right? You're right. I'm a player agent, but mind you, I've only got a few clients, and anyone who knows me knows why I do it, and I'm a guy of integrity who does it for the right reasons, or else I'd go and get 50 or 60 clients, right? That's kind of one thing. And working on Fox, I don't know what that's got to do with anything, right? But I understand why people would think it. And the reason people think it is because it is an agenda-driven push by Fairfax and Channel 9. So, and that's quite obvious. So to give you an example, Denny Wilder puts it in his article. Well, he's put it in there heaps. Whenever he gets a chance to have a crack at me and push the conflict of interest through being a player agent, he often puts it in the paper, and every shot he takes, right? And I get it because they're the opposition, and Fox League are doing well, and it's competition, and they take us on, and they kind of try and hit me and question my integrity, and then as much as I hate it, and I've actually rang Denny a few times about it and got quite feisty with him, it's not going to stop. So then, people read that and it puts a false narrative in their mind, Absolutely. Right? So I understand that, but I'll give you an example. So when the news broke last week, and this is an example of how they can manipulate and kind of try and make out like I have a conflict of interest and drive that. So when the news broke on DCE last week, Michael Chemis did an article the next day. And because there was a bit of competition there when Nine broke the story, and we spoke about it last week, and then on air we got the story, and then the Manly hierarchy rang, whatever. He wrote this story saying that Fox was scrambling and we didn't have the right information and all this. Fair enough. But then he referred to me, instead of the host of 360, he referred to me as the person who broke the news was a rival player agent. So straight away, he's trying to put in people's minds that I've got a conflict of interest as a rival player agent instead of the host of NRL 360. Can someone tell me what advantage I get from breaking the DCE news live on air as a rival player agent? Zero. There's absolutely zero, right? To add to this, and this is facts, I messaged him the next day when someone sent it to me because I don't read it. And I said, rival player agent, is that how you refer to me? One of your best. Michael Chemis responds, oh, sorry. He didn't say sorry. He goes, laugh. I was only G'ing up, taking the piss. So I'm like, okay, so you're only taking the piss, but you reported and written this in the Daily Telegraph, which therefore in the Sydney Morning Herald, which therefore paints a picture in people's minds and paints this narrative that I've got a conflict of interest. He writes back, I love your show. I watch it every night, handbrake, bang. You know what I mean? So I kind of take these guys head on with this sort of stuff because I know the impact it has on people. To me, I'm not impacted by it because I know I don't have a conflict of interest. I know I do it for all the right reasons. And the NRL, when I went to get my accreditation, they welcomed me with open arms and said, we need more people like you, because they knew I was doing it for the right reasons. And even lately, they know I look after my clients. They know that I don't, do what a lot of other agents do. And another thing is too, a lot of other agents have the shits with me because I'm an agent and I've got a voice on 360 and I talk about their clients. So what they do is they ring Wilder and those guys and they feed them information and try and get them to sort of smear me. But you know what? I don't really care. Yeah. I think it's like it's part of the business and it's what I do. Yep. But I need to say this to people so that they don't just keep getting this one narrative that's driven by the obvious for obvious reasons, So it's good for me now on a platform like this to have a voice because I can't really do it on 360 and that because they don't want to engage, and I understand that, and and we don't want to even acknowledge them and the rubbish that they write at times. A lot of times, they're great journos, so don't get me wrong. So they are great journos, and they're doing their job. But in doing their job, they're actually, trying to paint me in a certain light that I don't appreciate. But that's all, that's where all that conflict of interest comes from.
Can we get a charity boxing match going?
Mate,
What, against
sign me
Fox?
up now. Sign me up.
Braith versus Shemus and
No,
Weidler at the
don't
same
worry
time.
about Chemis, the other
Weidler.
bloke. Mate, I would love to.
I'm back at Weidler.
Mate,
He'd punch the
you
shit
would,
out of you.
mate. Oh, yeah. I knew you'd say that. And I'm not going to comment on
I've
this.
seen him hit the pads, mate. He's a dangerous
Please.
man.
I'm not going to comment on it because it get me in trouble.
Channel 9, does Channel 9 have any conflict of interest?
Good point you make there, Aaron. And this is a great point, and this is what people need to know. So when they are reporting that I have a conflict of interest, it is such hypocrisy, and I'll explain why. Have a look at Channel 9. Have a look at who is on their panel every week. Gus, and just before I say this, I get along with all these guys, and I've got no problem with what they do, what jobs they have or anything, and I've got great relationships with all of them, but it needs to be said. If I've got a conflict of interest, let's have a look at their panel. Gus Gould, General Manager of the Canterbury Bulldogs. Billy Slater, Coach of the Maroons and Assistant Coach at the Melbourne Storm. Brad Fittler, Coach of the New South Wales Blues, not so much anymore. Paul Gallen, ex-Cronulla player and huge Cronulla fan. I could keep going. Who else have we got? Joey Johns, one of my best mates. He is heavily tied to Newcastle, New South Wales, and coaches a number of clubs, coaches their halves.
Yep.
Who else have we got? Cameron Smith.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the list
it goes on.
goes
It goes
on. So here we are, guys, saying I've got a conflict of interest because I've got 6 players who I look after at different clubs. We've got a whole panel of guys who are linked to clubs and states and organisations and general managers. Like this. Open your eyes, ladies and gentlemen.
What did you call it? Hypocrisy?
Hypocrisy.
Manifest? You sound like the bloke that got, you sound like old mate that got arrested outside the Chinese.
Oh man,
This is hypocrisy.
Democracy and manifest.
Manifest.
What's it? The Chinese.
Ah, excellent.
You know what I mean? Like really,
Yeah.
people are blinded by this. You know, and we've got it at Fox. Like, it's all across us at Fox too. It is the way it works.
Yeah. They're clutching at straws when they're writing these comments, but it is entertaining.
Yep, and I don't mind the entertainment.
So please write in.
So we're going to go to let's move on to DCE. And let's not spend a long time on this because this has been absolutely murdered. This story, it's been massacred. And we don't want to bore people, but it is what it is, and it's happened. It's all
It seems like it's pointing more towards a CEO now.
Yeah. Well, what's happened here is, and so DCE's got his camp, and they've gone to 9 in Fairfax, and then the hierarchy of the Manly Seagulls, they've responded through News Limited and Fox Sports. Now, both News Limited and Fox Sports and Channel 9 and Fairfax are not. They're reporting what they're hearing from these two camps, but both are completely different. So there's no agendas by journalists. There's no misreporting. There is someone lying, and it's either DCE or it's Mestrov. No one knows that. I don't know if we'll ever find that out. But that's why this is blown up, and that's why this will continue to drag on. You know, because DCE, the way he played on the weekend, given the circumstances, was unbelievable, incredible the way that he showed up. He even did a pre-match interview with us on the Sunday Ticket, and I was like, man, that's impressive. To cop the criticism and the speculation, and then to turn up and still, because a lot of players would have said, I'm not doing an interview. And a lot of players do that. A lot of coaches do it. He manned up.
Took it head on, didn't he?
Then he got played outstanding.
Yeah.
But then the problem was the comments after the game were directed at Mestrov, allegedly. But people, there was a few comments about that on our socials. But, you know, so then it's then manifested and grown into another story, and then you know there actually is angst and animosity there, and they are on 2 separate pages, and they've still got a season to play out, and can they win a competition under these circumstances? So, you know, again, not going on too much about it, but that's the situation. You know, that's the situation.
I saw Cooper Cronk say something maybe yesterday that they could. He doesn't believe, or Matty might have said it, that he doesn't believe the Dogs are out of the race because he does want to go to a team that's going to win a premiership. Roosters ain't winning a premiership soon.
Well,
are they?
Well, they do get Robson and Walker back, and then if you add DCE to that, that makes them a premiership threat.
Okay.
I'm not saying they can win one or they will win one, but do you not agree with that?
Him leaving Manly's roster now,
Yeah.
and the potential Roosters roster, who would you see as a better fit or more likely to win a premiership?
Well, that's a tough one because, you know, we've questioned Manly and their ability to play away from home and win big games, whereas the Roosters have won premierships and delivered on the big stage more often.
With a far better roster, though.
Yeah, but if you look at their roster, Reni, like I look at their game on the weekend, and we'll talk about it in their preview. If they had, and this is a hard one again because the halves struggled on the weekend. If they had decent halves, they're 18-0 up against the Titans. And then before they knew it, because they were not executing and the halves were out of form and not playing well, they got behind. They were never going to win because they didn't have the artillery and the firepower or the confidence to do it. If you put DCE and Walker in that team and Robson, they're up 18-0 in that game.
Great spine.
20-0. Like, it makes a big difference. They've got really good outside backs. Manu will probably come back. We're not sure about that. They've still got Tedesco who's in good form. They've got, you know, who knows what happens with Swaliti, whatever. They've got, you know, they've got enough firepower there and players to add those three.
Yep.
To fight for the title, you know. But back to the Gus thing, it's an interesting one, and Buzz brought it up on 360. Gus has got a bit of a reputation of saying he's out of the race, but he's not. And he did that with Serrado, I believe. Said he was out and then they ended up signing him. And he did it with Leo Thompson. 3 weeks before he signed Leo Thompson, he said they were out of the race.
Interesting.
So you know, and it was a good response last week to what we said about. It was me and you kind of had different opinions on it.
Yeah.
And a lot of people supported you on that and said, you know what, we don't want him. We're happy with Sexton. Which was interesting. I thought there would have been probably more comments wanting him there, but that shows that the fans are actually buying into the. And we'll. Do you want to go to the Dogs now?
Yeah, we'll go to the Dogs. I mean, in my opinion, and what I wrote on Instagram is they play a very systematic style of play. You know, you saw when Cleary was out, they'd bring in a half, a makeshift, or not even a makeshift half, to fit within that system, and they had a lot of success even with Cleary out. They're a very similar style of play. The Dogs, that I don't believe that he's going to fit into that system.
Okay.
And to me, look, you look at the Dogs, right, and we can talk about their roster and their lack of that $1 million half, but the way they complete and compete for everything. How much do you need to win a game by? 1 point, right? I think defence wins you competitions.
Yep.
That they can drown these better teams out of wins, and especially in semi-finals or even a grand final. The big thing is the big games.
Yeah.
Munster, Hughes, guys that are very experienced in international rugby league, in Origin rugby league, in clubland, in semi-finals. That's where the Dogs could fall over. But if you look at their defence and what they're able to achieve defensively. Man, they're a chance this year.
Well, they are the best team in terms of effort areas and working for each other, you know, and the 1%ers. And that is everything. It really is. Like, that's huge because you've got such a great base to start with, and you know every week they're going to turn up. And we said this at the start of the year, if they lose, it's not going to be by much. You know, they're going to be in every in every battle, and they've won every battle so far. So I want to ask you a question. Last week I said to you, can they win the comp with Toby Sexton? You said no.
I said not yet. I didn't say no.
But have you changed your mind on that yet?
No. I wouldn't say I've changed my mind. I need a few more weeks.
You want more evidence.
But I want more evidence. But the way they play, their systems, they don't need to bring in a DCE to change too much of what they're building because Sexton has a role.
Yep.
If he doesn't need to play outside of what his role is too much. A DCE, he'll take a short side.
Yep.
He'll pull the trigger. He'll come up with a big play.
Yep.
But just the way they're playing the long game in terms of that 80 minutes, They'll drown you.
Yeah, I agree with you, mate. And
I don't think they need to bring a DCE in.
And I think with every week that they perform, like against the Sharks on the weekend, the more belief that maybe they can win with the competition with Sexton. You know, of course the jury's still out, and it will be. And it's not all about Sexton, because Sexton's doing a magnificent job and has done for 2 years. You know, and
Bailey Haywood did a great job.
He did
too.
He did, and they can use him, you know, with 9 and Reed Marnie and you know, throughout the season, or 7 or 6 if they need him throughout the year, which is good to have that backup as well. And you know, they got no Burton and kick out. Like,
I spoke to Ciro the other week. He was really excited for Haywood to get an opportunity at 6.
My question is, I actually think they looked better in attack
with Haywood.
With Haywood, and I'd be so interested to get your opinion. I think it's such a good testing ground. I actually think they might need to find a different position for Burton.
I don't believe that. No. I think
they can't. Their centres are, you know, Sherry and Crichton.
Would you move him to fullback?
Yeah, but he's Connor Tracy's going so well.
Connor Tracy's killing
the thing is, he has, and this is what you know, Reni was talking about really, is that, and again, I said last week with Serrato, they're very loyal, and loyalty is a big thing, because it's not around a lot in our game. So, you know, that they've built this ethos and culture there, where they're loyal to each other, they trust, and that shows on the field with the trust they have in each other and their system. So, and they don't want to rattle that or destabilise that. So, why do that, right? That's the reason that's the reason I think they're not making a play at DCE. Well, they're saying they're not making a play is because of that, right? And Serrato's really, really big on that. So, why would you change, you know, Burton at the moment when he's going to come back in? I know it's just good to have Haywood there, you know.
It's good to have depth.
It's good to have depth.
You see that the best teams are losing their best players through injury. So when you've got depth in Haywood, getting that opportunity at 6 to be able to control his team or their team while Burton's out, that's just only going to develop him more and more as a great footballer. So you keep him at that 14 role. You've got Kurt Mann, who plays a great 14 role. Josh Curran. I truly believe that when Warriors started falling off the wagon last year, it was from losing Curran.
I agree with you. Underrated, so underrated.
It was like Dallas Johnston in our era, like blokes that don't stand out and do. Gilbert, blokes that are just they go unnoticed, but they're doing all the small things that us ex-players do notice. You know, and you've got a team full of them with the Dogs.
And Preston going to the left side, master strokes.
He'll play Origin soon. He'll play Origin soon.
I
wouldn't be surprised if he gets picked in the Australian squad at the end of the year.
Yeah, I would agree with you.
I've been saying that for 12 months.
I agree with you. And you know, that's a credit to the Dogs too, to get these players now into position to play rep footy. You know, like you're talking about these guys that, you know, because of the way that they've played the last couple of years and what Cameron Serrato and Gus have created there at the club. It's you know, 4-0 leading the competition, and each year the last 3 years they've improved. You know, so at the start of the year I got laughed at for the top 4. You know, remember I took the screenshot of that guy who said he was more chance of winning Powerball. If you're watching, buddy, I'm keeping that screenshot.
Yeah, that's outstanding.
I'm keeping the receipts.
He's keeping them. We're going to put them up in the new studio.
Oh, mate, can't wait.
They're definitely building something special.
Yeah.
You know, and a lot of Penrith's success defensively was around Serrato.
Yeah.
He's just taken it to the Dogs, and
Gordy mentioned that on 360 last night, because Penrith are now 10th or 11th in defence this year. And I don't think it was a point he brought up, but he said, you know, maybe a couple of years on after Serrato's left and they don't have the team that they had then, and you know, there's a few cracks in their armour there, and Serrato was the defensive coach there when they were flying at the start. You know, they've obviously gone great after Serrato left, but it could be a little bit of a hangover. But their defence is unbelievable, isn't it? Yeah.
Yep.
All right, now some really big news breaking late yesterday afternoon. Michael Chemis actually broke it, so you give him credit for this, but it's not definite. This is speculation still. It's not confirmed. It hasn't been confirmed by Payne Haas or his camp, but Payne Haas looking set to leave the Australian team, or not leave, but choose Samoa over Australia. Now, you're the best person to talk to this, Ren. You are Samoan and Australian, and you're very passionate about your background and heritage. like you probably talk more to people about this than I do, and you've got a probably better understanding of this. What's your take on it?
I read when the news broke. I obviously put it in the WhatsApp group, but I went through a lot of the comments, and a lot of the comments were positive around Payne going to his heritage. It doesn't mean that he isn't a passionate New South Welshman and a passionate Australian.
Yeah.
This is a World Cup year next year. I don't believe it'll be this year. It could be potentially this year. The problem is, obviously, he can still play Origin and go play in it for a Tier 2 nation. But that's a loophole that he can't control. I still want to see him in a New South Wales jersey. In terms of development for Samoan Rugby League, they've had nothing but they've been building and building with Crichton, with To'o, Isaac Tungor, all these guys that have gone and played. Luai, gone to play for Samoa, played Origin, played for Samoa. This is only going to beef up our international rugby league.
Will.
But if you think about who could potentially play for Samoa or defect to Samoa, you've got Tino, you've got Moses Leota, Asafa Solomona, Papali'i, Terrell May.
Wow.
They're almost
What
a
a
tier
team.
one. They're almost a tier
Well, they should
one.
be a tier one.
It should be too.
Well, they don't have the infrastructure in Samoa, right?
No, yeah.
Yeah, even though they're Australian born or grew up in Australia.
Yeah, this tier 1, tier 2 stuff, the only problem I've got with it, I don't care who plays for who. And because, like, a quick example for me, at the end of my career, Greece wanted to start a team. I think he's already laughing. I haven't
they
even told
tier
the
one?
story. They're tier 38.
no tier.
They're actually doing all right. They played in the World Cup. But no, in all seriousness though, like, to me, they asked me to play, right? And I went over there for a month and I, coached a lot of the kids and mate, they come from off the boat literally to train and which was hours away on the islands because they watch it, they stream it from home and they wanted to play and they didn't know much. A few of them didn't even know much about the rules, whatever. But for me, going back to where my dad was from was amazing. And, growing up, like this is just an idea this is me who's not even in the same caliber as Haas but growing up, he wanted me to learn Greek and I didn't. And it's one of my biggest regrets. But the only thing I knew was the national anthem because he used to sing it as a joke, at dinner time. And I remember standing there singing the national anthem and it was it was so emotional. And it was a proud moment because I got to represent my father, So I get it, man. Like I understand why, I get it. And I don't care who makes what decision and who they play for. I really don't. It's just a bit of a mess, the rules around it all and Origin and tier 1, tier 2 and all this, I don't know. It's just, it's hard to know where it's going to land. And I feel sorry for someone like Kalen Ponga, who it hasn't been confirmed, but there are heavy rumours that he wants to play for New Zealand.
Yeah, there'll be some roadblocks.
But he can't play for New Zealand because they're tier 1, but Payne Haas can play Origin, but Payne Haas can go to Samoa and still play Origin. These are the little loopholes or I don't know what you call it, but they're kind of, it's a bit of a mess. I don't think it's fair to everyone, but I do believe that every player should have the right to play for whatever country they like.
Yeah. And just to expand on what you spoke about playing for Greece, it was the same with me. I'm a proud Australian. Playing for the Aussies, you've played for the Aussies, it is special.
Yeah.
But there's something different about playing for one of your parents' heritage. And to go in a Samoan camp, growing up Australian, it was something missing in my life that I wanted to connect with and learn my culture. And one thing, all I knew was the national anthem as well. I'd sit there and then do the Civital, like to do the haka, we call the Civital. It's just something different about it. So you can understand why these players want to play for their heritage. I don't think there's too many people that are upset about it anymore. There was a lot of noise about it when Taumalolo went to Tonga, and there were Fafita playing for Tonga.
Because they were the first ones.
They were the first ones, really. And there was a lot of noise. But people are a lot more educated with people's cultures and, it's a very multicultural country.
Well,
it's just the loopholes and the rules around Origin and playing for a different nation is going to get messy.
It will. Yeah, but what I'll say too with Origin, just quickly, like whatever rules are and whatever they decide, without Origin will always be Origin. Yeah. You Ruben Cotters and your Deardens and back in the day Benny Eikens and those guys who come into that team as guys that you wouldn't like to start off with. Now Cotter and Dearden are superstars, but early on in their career they get thrown Origin. You're thinking, who are these blokes? Are they up to this level? Whoever puts those jerseys on, they turn into Origin players. Like so the spectacle will always be amazing regardless, right? So that's something that I don't think it would impact Origin.
Do you see Origin as a trial for the Australian team?
I used to, but not so much anymore.
It's like that anymore.
Yeah, I don't. Whereas I know, Gordy was big on that last night. I don't really see it as that anymore.
I'm just going to pivot quickly. Just go to the Ashes.
Yeah.
In my opinion, I don't believe the Ashes is as strong, or it doesn't sort of resonate with this generation of players. Would you agree? Because for me, watching the Ashes was the Invincibles of the 80s, the 90s, watching Ricky Stewart, E.T., Mao, Daly. Now to bring in this Ashes series after playing a long competition, the hardest probably team competition in the world, and then go over and play 3 tests in England and call it the Ashes. Do you see the same appeal for these Australian boys these days?
Well, I don't think they would understand, right? Because we were only kids when we were watching. I remember waking up at 5 a.m. and watching Ricky Stewart throw 40-metre cutout passes to Mal Meninga. Like, that, honestly, that was my, that was everything. That was part of my, growing up and childhood, and it was amazing. And these guys used to go over there for like 3 months, back in the day, even longer. Mate, the older guys used to go over there for 6 months. They get a boat over there, like back in the it started at 1908. Andrew Abdo was on the other night. 1908 it started, and apparently it's I think it's 20 Test matches to 19 over that time in the Ashes. So it's actually like that. I think Australia have only won one more of those Test matches. So it's actually quite iconic. But you're right. The younger generation, they wouldn't understand the significance of it. But I think only time will tell. What it does, I think, a lot of guys pulled out of the Aussies last year or made themselves unavailable, or they had niggling injuries, and it felt like it wasn't a priority because the seasons are so big, and you've got Origin, you've got even the Vegas to start the year, and you've got more games, you've got more teams, and a lot of them would just think it's not worth their while, which you don't ever want for an Australian jersey. Maybe this does make it more worthwhile for them, and maybe it's it's an experience they just looking at the flip side. Maybe they see it as an experience to kind of go back to where it all started as well. Like it started over there. Yeah. That's a unique thing that hopefully the players buy into. But I think only time will tell. Only time will tell. But it is such a long year, and it's so intense. The game's faster and it's more physical and demanding, and it's
the elements. Over there, it's tough. I know Ricky Stewart. Like when I went into the Aussie camp, he made us practice the national anthem. Like we'd be in a room singing.
Well, you blokes didn't know it.
Oh, we all knew it, but that's the passion that he wanted us to invest into the Australian jersey.
I learned that when I was 5.
I know the second verse.
the old second one.
I know the second verse.
Yeah.
Beneath our radiant Southern Cross. Anyway.
Yeah.
But that's what Mao needs to bring into the Australian jerseys, guys. You need to understand that this Ashes tour goes back to 1908, where guys sat on a boat for 2 weeks to go over there. Yeah. And can you imagine how many kids they got over there?
Oh, wow. That's not nice.
That's not a touch. Did you have a question?
What happens on tour stays on tour. Anyway.
Yeah. I liked that.
Yeah. Just wrapping up this, and I just want to say that the international, the big focus for the NRL is building the international game.
Correct.
They going to Vegas, putting on this Ashes and New Zealand flying at the moment with the way they're going and the Warriors and the crowds over there, they're big on growing the game and taking it and putting it in the globalisation of the game. Yep. So with Payne Haas and these guys, if they do deflect, is not a bad thing. In essence, it grows every team to a healthy, strong competition of nations going toe-to-toe and at a high level. So I don't think they'd be upset with it. Now, what about the referees blitz? well, I don't know if it's a blitz or not, but this week they've come out and said, well, the NRL have come out and said that the referees got it horribly wrong. 4 players should have been sent to the bin. And this week they will make sure that they won't make the same mistake again. What's your thoughts on this?
I feel like it is a blitz. And I'm concerned that it's come just before Magic Round. Because the last thing I want to be doing is watching 3 days of rugby league and people just getting sin bin left, right and centre. Right? Contact with the head is a rule. I didn't notice across the first 4 rounds of rugby league there was more contact with the head. Yeah, they may have got it wrong, but why couldn't they keep it internally? Because now you've got the media talking about it. Everyone's pumped up about it. We're talking about it on a podcast.
Yeah.
That any contact with the head, a referee is going to be under pressure to put someone to the bin.
Yeah.
That's my concern.
Okay, so I had the same concern, Ren, and everyone does, and everyone went mad. You know, socials. You know, as soon as Buzz put the article up, you know, it was portrayed as any contact with the head. So then Andrew Abdo come on NRL 360, and it wasn't the case. So Abdo said directly that it isn't any contact to the head. It has to be forceful and direct contact to the head. So just to
Okay.
but you can have your crack.
Okay.
It's just, I'm like I'm with Buzz here. He's trying to
I saw that. I buzzed when I was
you want to host it? No. But no. Like, so that's actually very different to any contact with the head. It's got to be forceful and it's got to be direct, right? He also said that they got it wrong, right? So they want to admit they got it wrong and it won't happen again moving forward. So it's not so much that he's pretty much saying that it's not going to be a blitz. It's just that we didn't police it the right way last week and we're going to police it the right way this week. There's no change. So they're not saying we're going to be harder. We're going to make sure that, you know, there's no head eyes and there's no so it's not like Magic Round a few years ago. That's what he's saying to us.
Right.
So when I heard that, I'm thinking, yeah, well, you know, yes, they've created, you know,
Hysteria.
hysteria.
There's different interpretations of forceful.
There is too, but that's
And
why it's grey.
It's grey or great?
No, grey
No,
area.
grey.
It's a grey area.
Yeah, that's what I
Yeah,
mean.
yeah.
Like,
Great.
great.
Yeah, I love it, man. Take their heads off. Fuck it.
I loved it.
Fire-a-Lago every day.
I watched that clip the other day.
Oh, who hasn't? I've been sent it about 1,000
It's been
times.
going viral.
Yeah, it's great. You're off your head.
You're off your head. Yeah.
Apparently, he hit Jason Taylor harder. At least I stayed on my feet. Taylor was down the stairs, apparently.
He bounced off every step at Foresters.
Should have seen his head. Did you see the photo of that
I didn't
after?
see it,
Anyway,
no.
let's move on.
The
Yeah, so
interpretation's going to get ugly. I just wish they kept it internal.
yeah, I think, you know, but I'm a bit split on it because I don't mind the NRL coming out and you know, giving their being transparent, you know, because a lot of times they're not. And we want the TV rights, so I've got to give them a run. Anyway,
We'll see.
yeah, we'll see. Time for the preview, boys, for these weeks. Well, good grammar there. This week's games.
Before we go into the preview, I think we need to talk about the futures market, grand final market, because there has been some changes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So Melbourne Storm have stayed. They're under $3 now to win the comp. They're $2.88.
Really?
They're under
After
$3.
a loss to the Dragons.
There's been a massive move with an outsider. Brisbane Broncos are now in the second favourite,
What are they paying?
$5.
Go the outsiders.
Real long shot there, man.
Yeah, Penrith are now $7.
Ooh.
Cronulla Sharks $10, and the Bulldogs have moved into 12. They've firmed up a little bit,
Yeah, wow.
and deservedly so.
Yeah.
I think the one thing we've saw of last year, I want to get your thoughts. Cronulla, I think, always beat all the teams below them, but they struggled to beat top 4 contending teams, and it kind of showed that Canterbury probably looked like they could be a top 4 team, and they struggled against a team that looked to be.
Yeah, Cronulla, that's been their Achilles heel, right? So yeah, you can look at it two different ways there, I suppose. Cronulla, you know, are they going through the same thing yet again? You know, there's been some criticism of Nico again. You know, Joey was pretty critical of him on the weekend, which is, you know, when it comes from an immortal and a guy who watches games and knows games and halves better than anyone I've ever met in my life, you got to sort of take note and notice of that. You know, it's hard because Nico does cop it, you know, like whether they win or lose,
That comes with your paper.
it does, doesn't it, you know?
Yeah, you're in the 7 jersey. Yeah, it's if he doesn't turn things around this year, there's going to be some serious questions to Fitzy.
Well, I'll tell you the question. I thought Will Kennedy was one that probably didn't have a great game. Would you think about putting Nico
I
back
think
to
he's been
fullback?
one of their better players, though. Will
He had been, yeah. This
I
was
think
the one.
he's a genuine fullback.
It's an option as it goes, though. Like
Yeah.
if it, like
And they did have injuries, right? Atkinson went to centre.
yeah, I think as it, like you've brought up a couple of changes, and you're not wrong, but I think you got to stick with your side for as long as you can. If you're going to be a top 4 team or a premiership team, you can't be making too many changes in key positions.
In key positions. All right. Well, we do go down to GIO Stadium for the first game, where it is the Raiders against Cronulla Sharks. The Raiders 246. Cronulla need to bounce back $1.55 away from home.
Ooh,
That's big.
wow.
It's good for Cronulla to get a game in Canberra just before winter.
Like, how bad was that playing in Canberra in the middle of winter?
Horrible.
You actually look at the draw to make sure that you were hoping it was the start of the year or the end of the year that you played them.
You just didn't. I didn't want to go there ever.
Did you ever have a sore hammy that week in training?
No, I went on every trip.
My ex-missus was from Canberra.
Yeah,
So I had to go there. I had to go. Oh, that was one of your best. So I had to go to Canberra all the time. Anyway, let's move on from that because that could take me down a real rabbit hole. Where were we at the game? Okay, you know what? I think we've been quite on the money with these over the past few weeks. Of course, on the weekend was a tough one, but again, home team, Canberra started the year so well and have kind of come back to the field without doubt. Cronulla, though, they really struggled and they got to go away to Canberra. Ricky's going to fire them up. This is a real bounce back for the bounce backs happen a lot this year
Against his former club.
and I think we've been quite right with our bounce back factor on the 180 podcast. So I'm gonna go down that track again and say that the Raiders at home will bounce back, and I don't think Cronulla will. So I'm going to go with the underdogs. I'm going to go Canberra.
$2.46.
No, I think Sharks can turn it around. I'm going to go with the Sharks.
Yeah. I like this. Bit of already disagreeing. Beautiful.
We do often.
All right. Talking about a team that does need to bounce back, Penny Panthers. We're out at CommBank Stadium against the Cowboys, and we have prices of $1.23, $4.25 Cowboys.
I feel like CommBank's like a Suncorp. It's not really a home team advantage, because you go to a nice stadium where the crowd's on top of you. There's no advantage factor to that stadium.
I think it's been heavily understated that Penrith aren't playing at Penrith Park.
Right.
Like that.
Remember
That's
when
a
we used to play
coliseum,
there?
mate. That's a coliseum.
Remember we used to play there?
Yeah, I actually really enjoyed playing there because we had such a great team then.
Yeah.
We did well, right? But it was a coliseum.
hard
If you
to
were a
play.
team that were struggling and you go to Penrith against a team that are arguably they are the best team over the past 20 or 30 years. It's difficult, but they don't have that anymore. They don't have that advantage anymore. They don't have that luxury, which really hurts. And I think a lot of people probably haven't pointed that out enough. Who are they playing?
The Cowboys.
Oh, yeah.
And
Well,
Cleary's back.
Yeah, Cleary to me, it's like putting MJ back in the Bulls or, it's to me, it's Tom Brady. Like that's the kind
He'll
of
bring
comparison.
back a lot of confidence, keep them
He makes
calm.
everyone else better, mate.
He does.
And he also, Isaiah Yeo doesn't have to feel like he's got the world on his shoulders like he has the last few weeks. They're a different team with him in it. I just can't. I think the Messiah gets his team home.
You know what? 28-point difference though. Like you think about the first half against the Rabbits.
Mate, jump off the Panthers. You've been on them all year.
I'm just asking you the question.
Why do you jump off when they're about to win?
I'm asking you the question. I just think there was a lot of concern in that first
They're 11th
half.
They're 11th in the competition in conceding points.
Wow.
Yeah, and they were first last year this time. Well, they've been first nearly every year. Yeah.
Very soft tries.
But you know what
Messiah
though? You know
coming
what
back.
they're 10th in? Meters gained or meters out of their own. I think it was like their meters gained. So that's probably no Dylan Edwards in there as well.
Yeah.
When's he back? He's not back, is he?
No.
He's a few weeks, isn't he? So you know what, that does it. I'm just, again, I'm going with the. I love him. I think he's just a freak, and I'm because of the star power with Cleary. In a close one, I think Penrith win.
Who did Cowboys play last week?
They beat Canberra.
They beat Canberra.
Up home.
At home.
First win of the year.
Here he goes. He's about to jump off. I can feel
He's
it.
jumping off.
No, I'm staying with Penrith.
Ooh.
Messiah.
I might get off now. No, you've just stuffed my tip.
Cleary's just gone, fuck. I've got Reni on me back as well.
Mate, Reni faint. What's his name? Faint tour.
Yeah.
Yes. All
6-1 though.
right. We have the clash of the East and the South.
Oh.
South Sydney. $1.66.
Yeah, thingy.
$2.22. The Roosters. Now, this is going to be the first
through the
time
team.
Latrell plays in his position in centre.
Yeah, huge. I did say centre, didn't I?
Yes, you
2
did.
weeks ago. Jai Gray
I've
is
been
leading
saying it
the
for 3 years.
Jai Gray is leading the Daily M's. You can't take him out of the one spot. I don't think he's. I heard a lot of people say he's not as effective as in the 14 role.
No.
I think they may swap a little bit here and there. Would you say
Or have room to rove.
to rove?
Yeah, you'll see him as a roving 3.
But this rivalry. We're
Yeah.
very familiar with this rivalry, aren't we?
We are. Just before we get to the rivalry, Campbell Graham's out too, right? So it's quite an easy decision to make, I think, because if Campbell Graham's in, then Wayne had a real big decision. I think he would have. I think Latrell, he would have put him at fullback.
Yeah.
But with Campbell,
What do you do with Jai Gray? If
you just put him at 14. I'm just telling you what I think he would have done. I'm not saying what I would have done, right? But that's that. So it made his job probably Wayne's a lot easier this week because Campbell Graham's out. So but the big thing here is that Latrell's the trust he has in Wayne, the relationship they've got, shows that that they're a different team and he's a different person this year. Because in years gone by, if JD went up to him and said, "You're playing centre," it wouldn't have happened. So because he loves Wayne, respects Wayne, and Wayne's got his best interests at heart, and they've got that relationship and he's putting the team first, it's great to see. Because then he's playing in the centres where they need him the most this week, and that's a good thing for Latrell. It's a good thing for South. So, but the rivalry, Reni, we know it, mate. We all do, the three of us. We live in the east, and well, grew up in Malabar. That's South Territory. You grew up in South Territory there in Kingsford. And we played for South. And then we didn't end up there. I ended up at the Chooks. So it's all our mates. They all, cases of beer on the line.
This is a funny thing, right? And this is what used to annoy me back in the day because I, believe it or not, was a Roosters supporter.
Wow.
Purely because of
Controversial.
Freddie. But I always say to the boys, and I know because we go down to South Coast this week and there's going to be a big projector out
big
and
time.
everyone's South and they've got the South tattoos. And I think, how many of you were on the march when Souths were trying to get back into the competition? Zero.
I love this
Not
chat.
one of yous were on the march back in the day in 99.
I was there.
No,
I was there.
was it 2001?
Yeah, with Georgie, my uncle.
Because I was 2001. Yeah, I was with the Rabbits then. I thought, not one of you were on the march. Now you got this house, you're all South till I die. It just gives me a little bit of joy talking about that. Not one of them were on the march.
Well, I'm not going to comment on that. I'll leave that to you. They're your mates.
As soon as Russell Crowe came into it, they were like, "We're South." I was like, "No, these weren't." Not one of us was South in the 90s. We're all Canberra.
I was South. I was tragic South. Yeah, and then that's
Our only
changed.
man, Brian McCraw, our
Sparkles?
Sparkles is the only one that's always been a die-hard Rabbit.
Yeah.
Anyone outside of Sparkles?
I've got a question for you. I think this game as well, on form, I'm assuming you both would be tipping South. This is the one game where form almost completely goes out the window.
Oh, yeah. Historically. It's the Book of Feuds. You think back to a couple of years ago. This is the thing for me. Latrell coming back into the side, massive, huge.
Yeah.
And I think he's going to go off. He's going to go. He doesn't have Jared coming after him. He doesn't have Joey Manu coming after him.
This is the thing.
There is no fear factor in that Roosters side to get him in.
It's the problem
to
Reni,
control him.
for the Roosters, like they always try and get under Latrell's skin, and they've got the better of him quite a few times. Latrell has got the better of them too, so it's not a one-way street, but they often do target him because they know that he's got shit in him, and good and bad, right? And they've benefited from that over the years, but they can't really do that.
Yeah.
You're right, as in saying that form usually does go out the window with these battles because, mate, they're always epic, right? They always are, and everyone lifts. And I've got no doubt the Roosters will, and they'll put up a fight. But it's going to be hard, you know. Like they don't have the enforcers they've had in the past few years. With the Latrell inclusion and the way they're playing at the moment, South, up against a Roosters team who, I mean, they're halves. I just, you know, Chad, great bloke, and we had him on the show the other night on 360, but he was so pre-line, it was incredible. Like, it was 10 metres before the line. He was no threat at any time. He had no runs in the whole game. You know, and then you had Sandon Smith trying harder and trying too hard because he didn't really have the help that he needed in the halves, and he was making way too many errors and made a few key errors in crucial situations. And I just think, can they turn that around in 1 week? Can they do it? And I think no. Unfortunately, I think no. So, you know, I always go with my head and not my heart, and on this occasion, I'm going with the Bunnies.
Just on Chad Townsend and on their situation, and I don't think you'd do it in this week. Obviously, he was there to play reserve grade, as they said. They've got some young halves that they think. Obviously, Savala.
They signed him to play reserve grade?
Well, they had him. Well, yes.
They had him as a backup.
They had him as a backup.
Yeah.
But the thing is, would you be blooding some of these younger halves now, giving them time?
Well, I don't know where they're at, right? They've got Rodwell and Savala plays half, right?
Yeah.
I was like,
Savala plays half.
He's a half.
He's 6'4".
6 foot fish.
And he's a half, but he's a half. He plays when he plays cup. He's a
six
half.
as a 6 or a 7.
6 and 7, both.
Okay, well,
Throw him out.
you
Give
know,
him a go.
I don't know if he's ready to run like it puts pressure on him.
Yeah.
But like, you know what?
They're not winning a comp this year, so
Listen, I think again, you got to give them 1 more week in my eyes. If they come up against their arch enemy, right, and they play like they did last week, and they can't lift or take on the line or be more of a threat and kind of be a little bit of a liability as they were last week, then I'd say definitely start blooding some young guys. You know, I don't see any reason not to. They're not going to last until Walker comes back. He's not back for ages, so you can't continue the way they are, and I don't think they will.
Yeah, look, I'm going to go with South. I'm actually looking forward to see Latrell, the turnaround.
Yeah.
You know, having Wayne there, he does.
He looks fit,
he's got a jawline.
A jawline. Like, when was the last time we saw Latrell look this good?
Oh,
Years.
it's
You
scary.
know, that's the Wayne factor, and I'm excited for him to just go out and I just, you know, I love the way he moves and the way he plays at centre, especially when he plays Origin. I'm willing to watch footy to see how Latrell goes.
Yeah.
So I love the way Humphries is going at the moment. I'm going to go with South.
All right. We head back to Combank Saturday. Parramatta Eels, $2.47 against a full of confidence St George, $1.55.
Yeah, this is a hard one. This is a very hard one. Para, you know, you could say they're slowly improving or not. I'm trying to be positive.
Rolls, you get your back rowers to take some carries and just bend the line. Sean Lane and the other kid on the
Sean
right
Lane.
edge, get involved, please. I love Sean Lane. He's a great kid.
Yeah.
But
Well, let's just get something clear. Nothing's ever personal here. It's
yes,
just-
correct.
It is opinion.
But I was watching the game against Manly and I'm thinking, how are your halves going to be a threat if your back rowers aren't a threat?
Yeah.
You know, get involved in the game.
Run.
Run.
All of them. Just
Yeah.
run. You know, Dylan, run the ball, mate. Take them on. You know, and then, but also, I'm talking all of them.
Yeah.
Just run, because often when you run and your first threat is run and thought is run, the opposition think you're going to run, and then as soon as they think you're going to run, that's when the pass comes. That's when the gaps come. So, you know, that's why it's so important. Think run first and get tackled a few times. Then you fool the defence into thinking you're going to run every time, and then that's when they either jam or they get lazy or they just clock off for a split second, and that's when you start passing. Then when they think you're going to pass, then you run. But you've always got to think run first, and that's where they're not, and that's the Roosters as well, and their halves. You know, it's when you're in form, you're running the footy. You know, when you're not, you're not, and that's where they're at. And you know, their attack is woeful. The Para team, it really is.
It was very obvious that the back rows were no threat to the opposite halves. They weren't bending the line. They weren't carrying it enough. They weren't putting the defence in two minds enough. The defence were just able to slide off, or just they knew what was coming. It was too obvious. So
I think
that's my
because of
point.
that, it's impossible for me to tip them. Like, because I haven't seen enough evidence of them turning things around quick. I think it's going to be a tough year. We know that until Moses comes back. And the Dragons was a really tough win against Melbourne. One they needed because of the, obviously the situation there with that loss against South, which was they come under a lot of scrutiny. They should have won that game, but they've bounced back well. Sometimes you just need that tough win to get off the mark. You know.
And your boy did a great job.
Well, yeah.
Player agent. We'll touch on again.
But
no, both halves. Both halves played.
Lockie, yeah. I mean, Flato's been playing really good. I thought even in that loss against South, he played well. And Lockie did for 65 minutes, right? But I think it was good more, I think, from a psychological point of view, like it would have been, it's tough when you put on in the media and, everyone's watching your next performance after you're being questioned in a press conference by your coach. So for me, it was really, that's what makes me happy, is that it'll give him more belief and confidence moving into next week. And he's always been a really good defender, but he didn't defend great the first couple of rounds this year. So it's good to see his defence is back and where it needs to be. And mind you, he's gone into a new system. So he's, from South, so it's going to take him a little while. And I just want him, do the simple things right and then evolve as the season goes on with a few wins under his belt. But I was proud of him, and it was a good bounce back after that tough loss and criticism against South.
You could argue they should be on 6 points.
That's
should
the
have beat
thing,
the
right?
Dogs. They should have beat South.
That's the thing with the Dragons. Like, people have been highly critical of them, but they're that sort of sleeper team that can get some wins, mate.
Was it the Dogs?
How
got that one right?
How good's Gutho, man? He's just complete. He's an animal. He is everywhere, like
he's a competitor.
And that's that sort of game, I think, suited him, and it suited them as well, probably bringing Melbourne's flash away from him.
Yeah.
But those games are competitor games, aren't they, in the wet?
As soon as it rained, it brought the Dragons definitely into it and into a position where they could win the game. Not to say they wouldn't have won if it was dry, but it definitely it helped. Yeah.
Going Dragons, by the way.
Yeah, same.
I made mention of this team and I was very scared of them. Gold Coast Titans, $1.49, knocked off the Choogies last week. To the Dolphins, $2.65. What do you think? They're a team that they've got strike and their forwards are solid.
Yeah, they've found their mojo a bit, haven't they?
Oh, no.
Titans?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think they're a great side. I mean, they're missing a half. They're missing at 7, right? So
and now they've lost their fullback, which was a shame.
That's a big loss.
Like Campbell and Brimson. Not happy with that.
No, I don't think. I think Brimson's a 1. Campbell's a 1.
All right.
You got Foran coming back. Hopefully
Campbell's
soon.
a 1.
I think, but he's not a
a
natural 6. No.
I don't think he's a natural 6 either, Brimson.
Yeah.
I think Campbell.
No, not Brimson. No,
Brimson
Campbell.
and Campbell.
Campbell was the
They're
one
both
I'm
ones.
shocked on. Yeah.
Oh, Campbell, I don't mind at 7.
I like Campbell.
I don't. You could easily say he's as good if not better at fullback, but I actually don't mind him as a 7. Brimson, I think, I don't know. I don't know if he's a half.
He's not a half.
Like, he doesn't have the natural hands, and like when you look at a half, and
you could argue that even in the 1 jersey, he hasn't got that.
He's more.
He's just a pure runner.
Yeah, kind of Tedesco sort of fullback. Teddy's got better with his hands now, but he's evolved. Like Slater did evolve over his career with his hands. Teddy's done that, and I think Brimson has done that too, which has moved him into the halves because they need him there.
Yeah.
I don't think it's because he's a natural 6 or 7. No. It's because they've needed him there, and I think whenever you just move players for the need, or because you have to, it's probably you're already got a big challenge ahead of you to win a comp, that is, or to be top 4 or whatever. But I think they've got a good enough team definitely to make the 8. This week is they come against the Dolphins. It's hard to tip the Dolphins at the moment too, with the way they're going. It's only going to be a matter of time. I feel for the Dolphins. Wayne leaving and. With injuries and just kind of rebuilding. Well, not rebuilding, but you've got a new coach, and Christian Wolf's got huge raps on him. But it's a battle at the moment, and they're down in confidence. They can't finish off games, and the Titans are up in confidence. So that's why I'll go the Titans.
Yeah, I'll go Titans.
All right, we move forward. We go to Suncorp. Broncos. Very short here. $1.14 against West Tigers, $6. What Jerome Luai out?
Yeah, I'm going. Well, it was my first loss on the weekend, and because I tipped the Tigers again. I said get on them, and I thought they were home. You know, when
They should have
Terrell May put that, I thought he scored and he knocked it on. They would have won that if he scored that. And the Warriors did, mate, they did great. Warriors just, they keep turning up and performing. But, yeah, with no Luai and the Brisbane, the way they're playing, it's got to be Brisbane for me. But, you know, if you want a bit of value there with the Tigers, they're a different team, mate. They're a different team, and I expect it to be competitive. There's no doubt about that. I don't think it'll be a blowout.
16 and a half?
I think, I'd take that.
You would?
Yeah.
We just spoke about it before with the home ground advantage. I used to love playing at Suncorp.
Yeah.
You know, Tigers going up there and playing, it'll be a competitive game.
Yeah.
What did you think about the Broncos like shifting in their own end in the wet, throwing those long
Yeah, I
balls?
love it.
I love it. It's
Love
just so good to watch.
We don't do it
isn't
enough. I love the shift in any transition.
Same.
And you just got to be willing to defend it if there's an error.
If there's an
It
error.
is
That's
a
it.
risky
That
play,
is
but
right.
you will pull teams apart.
Yep.
Yeah.
I like it too.
I think Brisbane will be too strong. I'm going to go the Bronx.
I was starting to think it's an error, but Manly are at 4 points again.
It's a 3 weeks
They
in a row.
play there every
Played a
week.
lot.
They only play, like, they've gone to New Zealand. Every other game's been at 4
I think
points.
they've put forward they're going to do a new magic round. It's just every game's at 4 points.
They must have, you know, this is a good point you make, though, because there's got to be a period soon
Where
where they're
they're
away
not.
from home for a long time. And if this DCE saga continues and their record away from home being what it is compared to 4 Pines, you can take that into consideration and calculations moving
sure.
forward. They could spike and then
Yep.
anyway.
Definitely.
Who
So
they
they, so
Who they
yeah.
got?
I know, $2.54. The outsiders are against Melbourne, $1.52. No turbo.
But Jerome Hughes, maybe not. No, Jerome Hughes, maybe. I think he's been named on the extended bench.
I believe so.
That's big for Melbourne.
Battle of Brookie.
I think it depends on Jerome for me. Like if Jerome plays, I'd maybe lean towards Melbourne. But if Jerome doesn't, I'm definitely going Manly.
What day is this, sorry?
This is on, 1 second,
Sunday.
Sunday, 4
What's the
o'clock
weather
game.
forecast?
It's nice.
1 sec.
There's a storm.
It's going to be Melbourne storming.
I'm going to stick with the 4 Pine curse. No one can beat Manly at 4 Pines.
It's
It's not really a curse for Manly, but
no, but we've said it all year. That I think I said at the start of the season. I think they will win games they probably shouldn't at 4
Yeah.
Pines, and they will blow teams off the park.
They
at
just
4 Pines.
they just win it with ease. They're a different team at 4 points.
It
They
is going to
didn't-
be 25 degrees and sunny. We're looking at a dry
Okay,
track.
I'm just going to hedge I'm going to say this: if Jerome plays, which is something to keep an eye out throughout the week, I'd go Melbourne. If he doesn't, I'm definitely going Manly.
Okay.
I'm going to go Manly.
At the moment, the market's saying he's playing.
Well,
The
there
Dogs,
you go. There
evidently.
you go.
So, and the market tends to know.
Do you want me to ring Cam now? Not
Who have
doing
they
it. I
named
can't
at
do that.
fullback? Who's Manly?
Sorry.
Who's Manly named at fullback?
Manly's named at fullback. Sorry, 1 second. Hopewadi.
Jazz Tavanga. He's been a signing at 9. Did you watch much of that game? His service from 9 was unbelievable. They play a real long pass from the 9th, and he was just out in front for DCE and Brooks all game. Another Samoan. There you go. We've got our 9 spot
win the World Cup.
covered.
They're home and home. Just get on now.
Just get on now. All right, final game of the round. This is an important one for present company. Canterbury Bulldogs, $1.43. Newcastle Knights, $2.85. Now, I do want to make note, and I mentioned it, teams coming off the bye once we got into the season. Last 2 teams that have come off the bye have both won. Knights are coming off the bye.
Where's this at?
This is at a call.
I'm going the doggies.
I'm going the
I'm going the
Dogs.
doggies. You can't stop them at the moment.
As long as they're not reading too much into their hype. There's been a lot of media this week, and I know Ciro and Gus will keep them in check. But it's easy for you to turn up sometimes and expect the job to be done.
Yep.
You know, they're expected to beat Newcastle.
I don't think they'll be complacent, Ren, but I know your point, and it is a risk. I do think Newcastle would have been embarrassed from their last performance, and you will not see them play that way again. The bounce back factor after the bye, any team with Kalen Ponga in it is dangerous, and no Burton and Kikau the Bulldogs showed that they can win without them now.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean just because you do it one week, you do it the next. But I can't tip against the Dogs at home the way they're playing. I think with their systems the way they are and the effort areas, and I think they've still got enough strike power to get the job done, but in a close one.
They've got Carraz named on the extended bench. Mate, Blake Wilson last week was unbelievable.
You can't change anyone at the moment.
You can't change it. And then I do see the Knights have named on the extended bench probably the most loved man in rugby league, Jackson Hastings.
Leo Thompson's back as well.
And Leo Thompson's back.
Well, there you go, mate. That's going to be a very close game. That's actually it's close to a
cracking
toss
Sunday
of a coin.
game.
That
Yeah.
Mate,
I'll go the Dogs.
I think
Yeah,
if
I'm
they
going
play
Dogs
like they
too.
did last week, they almost beat any team.
yeah, I know that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So if you're going off the form guide, you're going Dogs.
All right. What's your bet of the round, Ren? Where do we sit?
Can't ask me this.
Wait, you have a think about it.
What's the Dogs paying?
They're $1.43.
Oh, there you go.
Preston anytime.
Dogs and Sherry anytime.
There we go. Dogs and Sherry anytime. We've got a multi there. Dog Sherry anytime.
Wow.
And what are we putting our faith in Braith?
This is an interesting one this week. Should I go Canberra in Canberra?
There was
That's not a
confidence
bad
there.
one, though.
Who's the favourite there?
The Cronulla $1.50.
I'll go Canberra in Canberra.
Yeah.
He's sick,
that
ain't
paying? That'll be a good.
$2.46.
Throw in an anytime try scorer as well.
Savage.
Savage. That's not bad.
Savage. there we go.
Savage.
Savage. I like that.
The aftershave? No?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's a good aftershave.
Is
isn't
it?
it is. Well, you wouldn't know. Is it because Louis make it?
I'll get
Johnny
it.
Depp makes it.
I'll get it in Bali. I'll get
Johnny
the Bali
Depp.
version.
Johnny Depp.
You remind me of Johnny Depp, actually.
Johnny
sometimes.
Johnny Depp.
Johnny No
You only
Depp.
wish you
Johnny
only
No Depp.
wish you had Amber Heard. That's the problem. Is it?
Oh, wow.
Wow. All right.
All right. That's it.
Thanks, boys. See you next week.
Enjoy the week.
What are you prepared to lose today? Set a deposit limit. For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.